The night was dark and stormy as I set out on a desolate highway, rain pelting against the windshield and thunder rumbling in the distance. I was driving alone, the radio crackling with eerie static. As I navigated through the relentless downpour, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The GPS on my phone glitched, displaying a strange symbol I'd never seen before. Ignoring it, I continued following its directions, hoping to find my way back to the main road. The road seemed endless, surrounded by dense forests on either side. The trees loomed ominously, casting eerie shadows on the slick asphalt. Suddenly, my headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. My heart pounded as I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching on the wet pavement. I rolled down my window slightly, trying to see who it was. A pale, ghostly face emerged from the darkness, eyes hollow and expression blank. My instincts screamed at me to drive away, but something held me in place. The figure approached the car with an eerie grace, his footsteps barely audible over the storm. As he reached my window, he extended a skeletal hand and whispered, "Help me, please." Fear gripped me, but empathy won out, and I unlocked the door. Without a word, he climbed into the passenger seat. His clothes were soaked, and a musty odor filled the car. As I drove on, the atmosphere inside the vehicle became more suffocating. Unsettled, I asked where he was headed, but he remained silent, staring out into the void. Minutes felt like hours, and my unease grew. The GPS continued to glitch, leading me deeper into the darkness. The rain intensified, creating an almost impenetrable wall of water around us. I tried to focus on the road, but the man's presence was unnerving. "Where are we going?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Your destiny awaits," he finally replied in a chilling tone. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I kept driving. I had to escape this nightmare. But no matter how fast I drove, the car seemed to crawl through the darkness. My headlights flickered, and for a brief moment, the man's face twisted into something grotesque. I blinked, and it was gone, replaced by the same hollow expression. I chalked it up to my imagination playing tricks on me, but deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. The rain finally began to subside, and the fog rolled in. The man directed me to take an old, overgrown path veering off from the highway. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the feeling of being watched intensified. Shadows danced among the trees, and whispers echoed through the fog. My pulse quickened, and I wanted to turn back, but it was as if an invisible force guided me forward. The man beside me stared ahead, unfazed by the haunting environment. Finally, we arrived at an abandoned mansion, looming in the darkness. Its windows were shattered, and vines crawled up its decaying walls. The sight of the mansion sent shivers down my spine, and I hesitated. "What is this place?" I asked, my voice quivering. "Your fate," the man replied cryptically. I was about to demand answers when he vanished from the seat beside me. Panic surged through me, and I stumbled out of the car, determined to leave this nightmare behind. But as I stepped away, the car doors slammed shut, trapping me inside. The mansion's front door creaked open, beckoning me to enter. Fear and curiosity waged war inside me, but against my better judgment, I entered the decrepit building. Darkness enveloped me, and I fumbled for a light source. The flickering of candles led me to a dimly lit room filled with old portraits. The faces in the paintings looked unnervingly familiar, like distorted versions of people I knew. In the center of the room, the man from the road stood, surrounded by other ghostly figures. They all turned to face me in eerie unison. Panic clawed at my throat, and I tried to run, but an invisible force held me in place. "You brought us here!" the man accused, his voice a haunting echo. I didn't understand what he meant, but before I could respond, the room filled with a bone-chilling wail, and the walls began to close in. The figures advanced toward me, their ghastly hands reaching out. In that moment, I realized my mistake. I had unknowingly stumbled into a place where lost souls sought their revenge, and now they demanded my life as retribution for my unwitting invitation. As the walls closed in, I screamed, my cries mingling with the echoes of the damned. My life flashed before my eyes, and in my final moments, I knew I would forever be a part of this haunted nightmare on the desolate highway.